And we're back. Welcome. It's Sunday night. And this is the Mickey, the Magic, the beautiful game with the promise of less rants this week, he said with his fingers crossed, and of more football chat that you all know and love. And tonight with me is Stephen and Nick. Hi, guys. You all both all right? Nick's not.
I'm good.
Nick's had it. Nick's totally had it. And it's...
But then saying that,
yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go, mate. I tell you.
Change clubs, Nick. I think you might as well change clubs.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Before we start, because I know we do have people watch from the US as well. Just to wish a happy Mother's Day to everyone across there. Charlie can't join us tonight for that particular reason, but we all know what Mother's Day brings, and being only 5 p.m. across it is sport. I reckon it's all hands on deck, and it's possibly one of those days as well. So have a good one, Charlie. But for every mother out there, a big hello to you, and hope you enjoyed your day. Except for UK mums, we've already had that this year, so we'll count them out.
Yeah.
just in case we get to the stage of having 2 Mother's Days. Could you imagine that?
They'll abolish the Father's Day and just have it as another.
Yeah, that's Anyway, come on, guys. Let's talk football. And I can't think of any better place to start than at Elland Road. I really can't, because for all Leeds were absolutely exceptional. Nick's already trailed us repeatedly on Twitter tonight as just having so much angst to share that we've got to let Nick go on. So over to you. We'll come back and join you at 11 o'clock for the awards.
right, again, where do I start? 3 goals, all identical. Each one of them, all down the left-hand side, all cut across the goal. It's getting embarrassing now. It's getting embarrassing. The fact that they think they warrant being in that top 4 with performances like that every week. No chance. They don't even warrant being mid-table, I don't think. And looking at where everyone else is in the league, to say that they're only, 7 points, 8 points off the top 4? I think it's 7. I can't remember.
Yeah.
How? They've been atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. But on the flip side, West Ham have had a brilliant season, and we're only 2 points away from them.
And that's where it's so crazy in some ways, isn't it?
It is.
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But just watching that game, I mean, I come into it a little bit late, so I already see that we were 1-0 down when I checked the score, and by the time I'd got a stream up to watch it, it was, I think it was 2-1. And I was like, why am I putting myself through this pain again this week? Every week I say, I'm not going to watch it this week. Not going to watch it this week. They draw you in with a 4-0 at Sheffield United. Yeah, no, we can beat them. We can beat. And then, voila. Yeah. Really, really annoying.
The ups and downs of being a Spurs fan, Nick, isn't it? What a football.
Just downs. It's very rarely ups. Yeah.
I don't know. I think you'll be all right. You got to be honest with you, you got rid of Jose Mourinho. That was the thing that needed to happen. The timing of it was a bit funny for me because you were just going into a cup final, so it might have been better to keep hold until after the cup final. But I don't think anyone on this show, even Charlie, who's not here now, wouldn't agree with the fact that was the right move. Yeah. It was definitely the right move, and I hear he's going to Roma. That's
another odd one as well, isn't it? So.
Yeah. But
he just always seems to find himself a job out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, you've got the past CV where he was winning trophies and fun. But if you look at the last 3 clubs and the discord is made in them clubs by players going, it's just everyone's dreading going into work.
I think that's the thing, though, Nick. And I think as well, and we did have a laugh in midweek because Man United were playing Europa League against Roma. And there was Chris Smalling, who Mourinho had seen out of Man United. And then there was the other lad as well, whose name escapes me for a minute, Mkhitaryan. who got punted off as well. And you're thinking these are players that have escaped Mourinho once, and he's now going after them. And you're thinking, goodness, they must be on the phone to their agent right now, going, tell you what, come September, I want to be at a different club. Because that's what he's left behind. And I think for his last stint at Real Madrid, his last stint at Chelsea, his only stint at Manchester United, what he left behind is still taking years to actually unpick and to actually undo. I don't know about you. I looked at that Spurs team yesterday. Dele Alli got his third start of the season in the Premier League, which I thought that was someone of Dele Alli's capabilities. I thought was criminal. But then he got substituted as well. Bale started as well. You wouldn't actually have known Bale was on the pitch, which was such a shame after the good game he'd had against Sheffield United. It's one of them ones. It's that whole thing where the team just doesn't seem to gel and it's totally inconsistent. But like you said, you've got points on the board, and no one's going to see all of this at the end of the season. They look at that table and go, do you know something? Finished in the top half, a bit of a topsy-turvy year. Do you know, wasn't that bad. And then when they look at it, they'll realise, do you know something? We've been watching some diabolical football this season.
Yeah, you can say that again, John. Really bad. I think the only people who look back on this season are the people who actually win the league, which will be City. No one. I don't think there's another team out there that will want to remember this season whatsoever. United fans might say they might want to remember it because they finally started getting up towards the top end of the table for the first time in God knows how many years. Yeah. But it's been a god-awful season. Absolutely awful.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing this season's going to be remembered for is the fact that there's no fans. And it was going through a pandemic. I can't honestly say, hand on heart, that you could go, it's been an exciting and an interesting season. It's just been dull as dishwater.
Yeah. I think as well, I know this goes against possibly where we're going with this conversation, but I would actually say, I don't think City have actually, I still think City, I said this in our first show, I don't think they've actually got out of second gear all season. But I tell you what, I'd really fancy Chelsea to do them in the Champions League final, having seen the way that Chelsea played against City yesterday. Now, I know there was the most pathetic attempt at a Panenka penalty by Aguero, but to actually see City actually get taken apart, and admittedly they really didn't give anything away to Chelsea. They tried to play a sort of semi-reserve side, if that could have, semi-reserve side with a team that actually would just walk into any other Premier League team. But Nathan Ake was playing for them at the back. I just wondered, Chelsea looked absolutely spot on.
I thought they looked good yesterday, John. I thought they did really well. This will hurt Nick as well, because they're really Spurs fan. They don't like each other, too, the Spurs and Chelsea fans. But before we go back onto Spurs and Nick's rant that he needs to do, I just want to pick up something about the Champions League final. I think you're right, John, because before going into that game yesterday, I was thinking I can't see past City. But the way Chelsea did, especially in that second half, they picked them apart at will as well. And
I've not seen anyone do that to City this season, and I just thought that was intriguing. And I would also say at the minute, I think you can get Chelsea at 3-1 in places for the Champions League final.
There's a way to that in it.
I quite fancy that. I just think they've got a little bit of a sign over Chelsea. And going back to the Spurs bit, Spurs have spent a season where they look back on a manager that just hasn't done it for them for a while. Chelsea were going down the same route, and I know we've said on this show how much we thought Lampard was badly done to. But Chelsea have actually plussed on the manager front. He's got players that previously weren't playing for the old manager. Tuchel's managed to get them playing, and actually they look as a team to be the biggest prospect looking again to next season, because they actually just look absolutely superb. And I think they made the biggest step forward by changing the manager. And this is where Spurs are now in a position where they need to look long and hard at who's going to come into that role, because it would have been very easy for Chelsea to just let the season roll on. but some really decisive and hard decisions made at the right time and getting the right guy in has actually turned their season around. They could end up winning a Champions League and finish it, and possibly even finishing second. But don't let many Man United fans hear that.
And an FA Cup.
Yeah, and an FA Cup.
Yeah.
I think you're right, son. I think they could come up next season. Don't forget, next season's going to be returning back to normal, as we probably say, because they're going to hopefully have a bit of a rest of the summer and have a proper pre-season.
I'll tell you, going down the same thread sort of thread as well there.
Yeah.
What other clubs do you think have actually overachieved, considering they've had no fans? Because considering there hasn't been fans in the stadium, and I'll keep coming back to Newcastle because everybody knows of my dislike for Steve Bruce. But had there been fans in the ground, I don't think Newcastle would have stuck with Bruce all the way through the season. I think he'd have been gone by Christmas. And they're currently in 14th. And you look end of the season, you look at that and you think, oh well, look at that. Any thought of relegation doesn't sort of cross your mind. We're comfortably safe, not a problem. And everyone's hunky dory. We're just below Crystal Palace, Wolves. They'd be thinking that's a good season. Leeds have been absolutely superb, and I think we've said that throughout. I think they've overachieved, as of West Ham. I think they've benefited from not having fans in the stadium giving them grief.
Yeah,
but, so it's one of those real weird ones, isn't it? And I think you can see those nervous times coming back to some of these clubs again. Once you get people like me sat there in the stand giving people abuse and telling the manager and the players what you think of them.
I think West Ham will struggle next season if they qualify for Europe, which it probably looks like they will.
Yeah,
because they're going to be doubling their game, their fixture list.
Yeah,
and I don't think they've got the players to do it. Personally, to be playing possibly 3 games a week. Especially.
I totally agree with that. Well. Totally agree.
So you're going to have fans expecting, they're thinking, oh yeah, look, say we're because there's a lot of, I'm not saying all West Ham fans, anyone that's watching, I'm not saying all West Ham fans, but I'd say a good 10 out of 10 West Ham fans, very much sort of living in dream world, where they're like, yeah, we should be up with the big boys because you've got a big stadium. No, a bit like Tottenham, we've got a big stadium, we're still not there. We thought we was, because we managed to scrape through to a Champions League final, and as brilliant as it was, we're still not good enough. So for West Ham fans to be sitting there going, right, well, we expect now, they're turning into Tottenham fans. We expect good things to happen.
Yeah.
And then they'll get back, and then they'll lose their first 5 games, and it'll be like, well, season's finished.
Moyes out.
Everyone's returning their Europa League tickets. I ain't watching that.
But on the flip side of that, Nick, West Ham not doing well because they got European games. Well, it doesn't look like Tottenham, your Spurs side, will get European football next season.
Which I think
that'll be a bonus.
Beneficial.
It should be a bonus because you've been in Europa League this year, have you not? And it's one of them tournaments, Europa League. I know Liverpool have been in a couple of times over the years. It's a nice thing to win. It's a nice thing to have and to win. But when you're in there, it's just ridiculous because you go into the far reaches of Russia and everything when you're playing it.
Yeah, midweek, knowing that you've got to now travel possibly overnight back home, try and get some sleep, training the next day, game the day after that, and it's just gonna wipe your squad out. But I think if we don't make Europe, this is what I think the players should be thinking. If we don't make Europe, is that such a bad thing? We now don't have to travel to a stupid name that no one's ever heard of, country. And so you'll only be playing at most 2 games a week if you manage to do well in domestic competitions. And you've got more chance to concentrate on the domestic competitions because you're not like, right, well, I've got to put a second string side out this game because I've got a game midweek. So I remember when Chelsea didn't make Champions League and Europa League for a couple of years. And then they ended up winning the bloody league. You know what I mean? And then Liverpool went through that stint of coming out of the Champions League, and then they was in Europa League, and I think they won that twice.
Yeah. So did you?
Yeah. So is not being in Europe, personally, I think they need time out of it. I know it's a cash cow, and Levy's like, we really need the money. But if I was a Spurs player there, I'd be like, I'm getting too much. As much as I love my football, I'm getting too much game time, and I need a rest. Especially this season just gone as well. We've had no pre-season. We had a month off and went straight into a league. You know what I mean? A full season. So they're going to want this time off. And I mean, it's probably going to be difficult this summer again because a lot of them will be on international duty with the Euros. And then they'll be coming back and possibly miss, the first 2-3 games of the season, depending on how far their country gets. But I think, personally, if Spurs don't make Europe, as a fan, that wouldn't bother me. I think they need the respite and to get their mind back in the game of, we've not got Europe in the back of our minds now. Let's concentrate on our league. And if we do well in the League Cup and the FA Cup, fine. But we're not going to Gdansk or whatever it's called in the freezing cold, -16, having to put me long johns on and playing 6 inches of snow with an orange ball. Do they still do that? Probably. I'm showing me age a bit.
Can I just add a bit more into that, Nick, as well? Because I've just put it up on the screen in front of me because I'm trying to make the best knowledge of this as I possibly can. Because this week we saw the semi-finals of the Champions League. So we've got 2 English clubs qualifying for the Champions League final. So obviously an English team's going to win that. Now that now means that the Premier League, if you finish top 5, you will be guaranteed Champions League qualification. Right? This is I'm going from what's in front of me here, and I still can't believe it. You've then got 2 teams, if I'm reading this right, that will qualify for the Europa League. And then if you finish 8th, you're going to qualify for this new competition because Man City are already going to win the league or the Champions League. And that would have allowed the team that won the Football League Cup to qualify for this new competition, the Europa Conference League, which looks crazily sort of off the wall altogether. So I was quite happy for my own team to be finishing 8th or 9th, if I'm being honest, for the same reasons that you've just said. I know that my team, Everton, are not good enough to play European football midweek and Premier League football. Like we saw with Burnley last season, and Burnley were really sort of put to the test purely because even this season, I can't remember. Seasons all roll into one. But if you don't have a squad that's deep enough to actually cope with the stresses and the strains of that, your Premier League form just goes totally out the window, and you suddenly find yourself sucked into that bottom end of the league for no real reason. And it's such a massive distraction at a time when you really need your team. Your whole club needs rebuilding from inside. And I still feel for Everton, for as much as people are saying, Alan Ancelotti's there, there's so much of a big job that still needs to be done to rebuild the squad. Spurs are in the same boat. And actually the distraction of European football, for the guy who's sat in the office counting all the pennies and all that, it's really good because, we've qualified for Europe. There's another money spinner. There's another shirt we can sell. There's more corporate boxes we can sell on a European night midweek. They're thinking of all the money side of it, but they're not thinking about the players. They're not thinking about the longer term, and I think this is the bit, if I was a team like Villa at the minute, who are well off the pace, currently in 11th, if I was a Villa fan, you're probably sort of thinking, we've had a great season until Grealish got injured. Really gutted that we should have been pushing for the European spot, if not Champions League at one time. They're actually probably going to look around and think, that was a close escape because next season they can actually rebuild and they can push on again. Just my thoughts. Don't know if you agree with it, but
I forgot what I was going to say now.
Yeah, but I just think it's crazy. Yeah. If you're not playing European football, you stand more chance of beating the teams that are.
Yeah. Because they're going to be fatigued from the midweek. Unless you've got a deep enough squad, like the likes of City and Chelsea. I know they've got a few. Man United at a push, but anyone from, I'd say, 4th to 7th, possibly 8th, depending on if you get into a competition with 8th.
Yeah.
Then I think you stand a very good chance if you're thinking, well, they've just played midweek football. They've only got a squad of at most 20 players. 2 of them hobbled off on a Thursday.
Yeah.
They're all going to be completely shattered from flying from wherever they've come from, if they're playing away. You think, right, we'll put them to the sword on Saturday, especially if it's half 12 kickoff.
Yeah,
straight from the kickoff. That's just atom. 45 minutes, blow the wind out of themselves. And this is the stuff, I mean, with the likes of that, if Spurs weren't to get into Europe, they've got the squad to do that on a Saturday. They think, right, we've got fast players that will terrorise most defences if they turn up, of course, which they're not popular this season.
Yeah.
But against the European sides that have not got that depth in their squad and that are quite fresh and new to Europe, have a go, because they're going to be blowing out their backsides the first 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think personally, my view is if Spurs don't make Europe good, it'll do them a favour.
No, I'd agree with you. I just think it's such a distraction. And I know, Stephen, you've probably got a completely different view on this because you're looking at your team on that. They're on Liverpool on that cusp of needing Champions League football qualification and possibly not getting there and actually finishing the Europa League bit, which I think for Liverpool would be a really a massive sort of issue, wouldn't it, financially? Because you depend on that. You like Man United, like Man City, you like Chelsea. You depend on that Champions League income, you know. Yeah. And I think, but your club's actually set up itself up over a period of years to actually understand that that's, if you play for Liverpool, that's what's expected and that's what happens. You play Champions League, then you play on the Sunday lunchtime game and stuff like that.
That's right. That's Liverpool do have the squad to cope with the 2 or 3 games in a week as well. We've had a few tough injuries this year. We had quite a lot of injuries and we were sat top of the league for a long time with it. We've had such a poor 2021 that I just don't see us improving and getting that Champions League spot because if you look at it, we've got it. If we win our games in hand, which we won 1 yesterday on Leicester, and we beat United on Thursday, we're only 3 points behind Leicester. But if Leicester get beat on Tuesday by Manchester United, and then we win that other game in hand, then we go above them into 4th.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd see where Nick's coming from, and you're coming from an Everton and Tottenham's point of view. And it makes complete sense for your 2 clubs to do it. Is to go, do you know what? Let's just sit out of Europe for now because it's going to be more of a distraction than it is going to be a benefit. But when don't forget Liverpool over the last few years have been one of the most dominant forces in the English game. We've had a really bad season this season, so we've dropped off that this year. I'd like to think we'll get back on it next year, but only time will tell on that. But if you're in a place where you need to build your club up and get that team up, and I'm going to pick on Spurs in a bit because they're going to go through some great changes now. They're going to, I know, you're going to have a new manager. The new manager's got to come in and bed in. I'll let you manager rise to the challenge and say, I want all the big challenges. Having Europa League is a distraction of trying to set up your team and getting it going. Because you need to just look at it, get the manager and build the team in his vision. Where at the moment, the Pochettino and Mourinho's mess. Let's be honest, that's what you've got there. So you've got some great players in Dele Alli, Harry Winks, and
Eric Dyer.
Exactly, yeah.
Eric Dyer, England international. Yeah.
No, but I think in goal, you've got a great keeper in Lloris. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I do rate him highly. You need to look at your back 4, get that nice and solid. I think some of your attack. I think you're right. You've got some great players with pace and great attack and flair. But what you need to do is set up your base and get it built from the back upwards. And I think doing that while you're also playing 2-3 games a week is just not ideal. Because when you're playing games in the midweek in Europe, you're travelling out to wherever you've got to go to, especially in the Europa League. You could be in St. Petersburg, you could be anywhere. That's less time on the training field for the new manager to put his philosophy in place. What you need is a game a week, and maybe 2 games when the domestic cup starts. Loads of time on the training pitch. Get the philosophy going, and then you should see benefits. But what you need to do is go and get the right manager in. I think Spurs are doing the right thing at the minute and holding off and looking for the right manager rather than knee-jerking into it. Like I said before, I think the time with Mourinho going was probably a little bit. I didn't quite understand it because it was right before the cup final, but everyone agrees that was the right decision to do.
Yeah.
It's not a problem in that one.
I'd say the problem Spurs have got at the moment is every manager is looking at that position like it's some sort of poison chalice, because every manager that's gone to Spurs, bar Pochettino, hasn't done very well. Because in my eyes, I think whoever goes in there doesn't have the dressing room. I think Pochettino, when he first came, I was very, very dubious. I'm like, really? You've managed Southampton? What have you proven, really? But it seemed to work. Everyone seemed to like him. Everyone seemed to want to play for him. And then it just, I don't know what happened. One season you're brilliant. Next season, nothing worked. Yeah. So something has got to have happened. But everyone is looking at that. Well, you've just got to see the managers that they lined up. And it's before we even spoke to them, no, not interested. No, not interested. It's like the England job. No one wants it. No one wants it. Because it's like they look at it and think, I'm never going to win a trophy. But with that squad,
but are you going through the same... Are you not going through the same bit now? And I this is the bit I don't like when there's an interim manager in place and it just gives the press the opportunity to just basically write whatever they want to write. And this week's biggest rumor, I think, was Thursday or Friday's story in the press. Graham Potter from Brighton to go to Spurs, and I'm thinking, hang on, just what? No way. He's just not a good. He just isn't. He isn't the Spurs fit. I know. A few weeks ago we were talking about Roberto Martinez going to Spurs. Now, I'm not being funny, but from experience, Spurs don't want to touch Martinez with a barge pole, because actually, if you thought your defence was bad now, by the time Martinez finishes with you, that's it. Yeah. Do you know something? Allardyce would do a better job than possibly half of the names that have been associated with the job so far, and that's it's not pretty to watch. But
with Graham Potter.
Hey Charlie.
Oh, hi Charlie.
Hi Charlie. All right, mate.
With Graham Potter, they're like, we'll go and ask it. Even he's gone, nah, I'd rather stay at Brighton.
Yeah.
You think, well, even if Graham Potter don't want to go, what does that say to every other manager?
Yeah.
Because I've heard rumours. Obviously, Nagelsmann was destined for Bayern. He wasn't looking anywhere else. So, fair enough. But then I mentioned Ten Hag from Ajax. Apparently, they had talks with him, and Spurs ruled him out. He didn't rule it out.
Yeah.
Apparently, the ethos that he was going for, Spurs didn't like, and was just like, don't call us, we'll call you. And that's why he signed an extension with Ajax for another year. And you think, he works with young players, and he's an attacking-minded manager. What is there not to want? Unless he was asking, well, I want 50 million a year for turning up, or he was just asking stupid things. I mean, we're probably never going to know. But I mean, there's other names that they look. I mean,
come in.
Hi everyone that's in the chat. I mean, how many have we got this week? And that's 7 in the chat. Brilliant. They're looking at the likes of Scott Parker, and you think, Why?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for managers have got to start somewhere, but when you get a young manager walk into a top-rate team, I mean, you can't say that Fulham are not a top-rate team. They're in the Premier League. They're probably not for much longer, but they're in top-flight football.
I don't think they're coming off the Premier League, Nick. Come on, you've just smashed the bottom out of your glass and everything's fell off.
If you're in the Premier League, you're doing something right. And let's be fair. It doesn't matter if you're at the bottom of the Premier League. You're above another 60, 70 teams. So that's my thinking behind it. They're all right, they're crap, but they're in the top flight football. But what has he got to show, Scott Parker? He's got nothing. He needs to cut his teeth in the lower leagues and get one of them teams promoted. And you're like, wait a minute, they were rubbish, and now they've jumped 2 leagues in 2 years, like Martin O'Neill did with Wickham.
Yeah.
And then you got Brendan Rodgers going to Liverpool and getting them back in the Champions League. He gets fobbed off, goes to Leicester. Now he's Champions League, finishing second, and they're people that have cut their teeth in lower leagues and can prove that they can do the job. And Spurs are like, oh, Scott Parker, he used to play for us.
Yeah. So what about Brendan Rodgers going to Spurs?
Brendan Rodgers. Yeah, but he don't want it. There's another one who's.
I don't think he would. And that's I just wondered what, from a Spurs perspective, because to me he would be a really safe pair of hands and offer you something completely different. I've got 2 names that I keep coming back to, and I think they possibly could end up being a little bit of a decent fit for Spurs. Now, the first one I think is one that I think would be a little bit controversial, just to the fact that he's already a Premier League manager. But Nuno Espirito Santo from Wolves.
Oh no, honestly, don't know. I think he's a good manager. The goalkeeper becomes a good manager as well, isn't he? He's one, because we're Disney related and stuff like that. If your new manager was a Disney character, which one would you choose? Come on, let's have that debate. Come on, let's do it.
That's a really difficult one, actually.
Hazies, give him hazies. Get hazies in there. Let him do it.
Oh yeah, can you imagine the half-time team talk?
I thought they just got rid of him.
Yeah, that'd be literally every time Winks passes it backwards.
Yeah, that was the conversation he had with Dele Alli on his first appearance in the Premier League this season, wasn't it? And he knows he's never seen again.
What Disney character? Come back to me. I'm going to think of a really good one.
And I'm still going to stick with this guy, though.
No hugging, lads. No kissing.
Well,
can I throw someone else into the mix that is controversial as well? Simply because he's a former Chelsea manager and he's a former Liverpool manager. Rafa
Benitez. Yeah.
Now, I did see this in the news the other day, and I don't know. I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure if he's a little bit like Mourinho. He's done what he's done, and now he's just from club to club because it doesn't seem to be working for him.
Yeah.
But what you need is a manager that's up and coming and really ready to go. Because, I'm with you. Benitez, he was a great manager in his day, but he's back then. He's not now. It's the same as Mourinho. Mourinho was never going to be a great manager again. He's had his day. So you got like Tuchel, so City went out and got the obvious one, which was Pep Guardiola. Liverpool went out and got one, which was probably obvious as well, in Jurgen Klopp. Tuchel, following that, I'd be looking at someone who has gone down that same road, that same progression as those 3 managers, because all 3 of them started off young and really progressed pretty quickly all the way through the managerial.
Yeah.
It could be a case of go for a younger, I know you said like Parky didn't want someone who's cut the teeth in the Premier League and done that, and I'm totally with you on that. But sometimes it's not always the ones that have cut the teeth in the Premier League that are the best options. I'll be honest with you, when we took Brendan Rodgers on, I was like, well, a bit soon for him. But do you know what? He rose to the challenge and he done well. And we nearly won the title under him. So for me, I think you wouldn't go far wrong at the moment with Brendan Rodgers, because I think he's there now at the precipice of just becoming that next great manager, because he's cut his teeth in the English Premier League now with Liverpool and Leicester. He went to Celtic. All right, I know it's a one-team league up there, but he did really well there as well.
Yeah, he did.
I just think he'd be a really good fit for Tottenham. I really do. I think he'd bring that kind of. He's got a real good tactical nous about him. He knows his football. He knows how to set his teams up. So I think you wouldn't go far wrong with that one.
Unless something really, really drastic happens with Leicester, he's not going anywhere.
But you can see that coming. You can see that happening. Leicester last season finished badly and missed out on. I think they missed out on Champions League last year, just on the last day of the season. Yeah. And the way that they played recently, and actually got, the current table, they're in that fourth place position, 63 points now. If Liverpool are going to do this, and Liverpool are going to qualify for Champions League, it could end up being again that Leicester miss out on that last day, which should be for I've got family who are Leicester fans, and heaven forbid they have to go through that again. But you could see that being something, because I've got to say, when they played Newcastle on Friday night, they were lousy to the extent at which you wondered actually where Leicester's next performance is going to come from. And they're going to play Man United Tuesday night. Man United obviously playing against Liverpool on Thursday night, so I reckon United would play a second team really on Tuesday. Keep everyone fresh so they can beat Liverpool on Thursday, obviously. But I could still see a second string United team taking them apart. They seem to have got the jitters, and I don't know why. I just feel that if Rodgers is actually downbeat enough, he might be stupid enough to actually leave Leicester behind and go to Spurs.
If he does, then brilliant. I will welcome him with open arms.
Yeah. I've got, I'm intrigued, because it's such a job that I keep looking at. I keep looking at, obviously not to apply myself, because my Sunday League experience as a manager is somewhat limited. And doesn't often get me sort of considered in the same echelons as Rafa Benitez and company. But hey, I could quite fancy that job myself. Doesn't look, if it looked like anything. If the Spurs program on Amazon is anything to go by, you don't have to do much except put Sky Sports on and sit in the office all day. That sounds my kind of job.
And Instagram.
Yeah. And just turn up on a Saturday, tell the lads, go and enjoy yourselves. Yeah. Go kick that ball around, see if you enjoy it. If you fancy, go and score a goal if you fancy, Harry.
Frank Lampard.
No.
That's not good fit.
I do not want that man anywhere near my club. I'd rather have Mourinho back.
Yeah, I can't see an ex-Chelsea man coming to Tottenham. Can't see it.
I can't see it either. But now it's intriguing times, and I've got to say, Nick, it should be exciting, but it isn't, because I think that the standard of football that's there is so poor. And I'll pick up on something that was up on Match of the Day last night, where Alan Shearer, who was in a similar position to Harry Kane after he'd won the league at Shearer, which obviously Harry Kane hasn't, but gone through a season where it was frustrating this season after, when he was at Blackburn, and he was then in that position of, do you stay and not see the squad around you improved, or do you go and find pastures new? And obviously Shearer had the choice of United or Newcastle at the time, and his view of Harry Kane was, if he wants to win something, he needs to go. And I thought that to hear that coming from someone like Alan Shearer, I thought was just like, it's an interesting thing because you could imagine a new manager turning up there with Kane on the way out, and you're left with very little to replace him with. And where do you go next? I don't know. It's an interesting time, but I thought Shearer's line on it last night was interesting because if he's trying to persuade Kane to leave, then I know we've talked about this the past couple of weeks of, it'll depend on what Kane does in the Euros as to whereabouts he ends up, because it could end up being, a lot of people talk about him being sort of made for another English side. But if he does all right against some of these European teams, then maybe some of the big boys from Europe will come sniffing around after him because he knows how to score a goal.
Does, yeah. He's getting towards his 30 now, is he not? He's getting close to 30 now. Was he 28? 29 now, Harry Kane? Yeah, so... But to be honest with you, Tottenham got to do a rebuilding job anyway.
Yeah, the problem Kane's got at the minute, if you go on the last 3 or 4 games he's played, he's been absolute crap.
Yeah.
So for Levy to go, well, he's 175 million. If you're just going on them 4 games, no, he ain't.
Yeah.
So he really either needs to pull his socks up and show what he's worth in these last 2-3 games, and then show what he's worth at the Euros. Otherwise, no one's going to.
Yeah.
I think the issue is though he's basically become, and no offense to Son, but Kane has just basically become a one-man team. And if he doesn't play well, then the rest of the Spurs team don't seem to play well. And when he's out injured, you're relying far too much on Son to step up to the mark. I wish we had all the answers for every Spurs fan who's watching and stuff like that, but we don't. And I just think it's intriguing times. It really is. Shall we move on? Shall we move it on a bit, guys? I'm just aware
40 minutes.
Loads of people watch our shows to talk about. So we mentioned their club, and it's
Let's talk about one of your favourite people, John Fat Sam. He's finally, out of all the attempts that people tried to relegate him from the Premier League, he's finally been relegated.
Yeah.
Wow, didn't Arsenal relegate them properly today? Jesus. It was 3-1.
It was just
3-1 today. Tottenham just Arsenal tore them to pieces.
It was interesting because Arsenal got put out of Europe midweek on Thursday night, and it was a 0-0 draw against Villarreal. And Martin Keown, who's a former Everton player and Arsenal player and Villa player, was absolutely lambasting Arteta. And yet here he was on the TV tonight, and he was the co-commentator. It was as if somebody had thought the worst of Martin Keown, will make you watch Arsenal again. And he was having to reel himself back in because actually the way that Arsenal played, and yes, it's against a team that's been relegated, similar to Spurs against Sheffield United last week. So we need to be careful as to how you compare your successes now. But Arsenal looked absolutely superb. They had such an expansive game, and they looked quick. The touch on the ball was superb. But it was the younger lads that really stood up for them today. And I just thought, as much as Keown slagged Arteta off on Thursday, I think he really had to swallow a lot of that tonight because Arsenal actually looked really good.
We've just gone from absolutely annihilating the Tottenham where they're going wrong and where they need to go better. And we go and tell them that Arsenal are doing it.
Thing is, though, Nick, they're in ninth. They're in ninth place with 52 points, right?
They've fallen, haven't Arsenal?
And they're still in that position where you put them up against a half decent team. They don't know what to do. No. You look at the team beneath them, Leeds. Yeah, we've said this all along. Leeds just play the system, play the way that they've been told to play by the manager, as they did against Spurs, but also as they keep doing against some of these teams where everyone's thinking they're going to get beat, and actually they don't. They turn up and they actually put a shift in. Yeah. And I think for anybody looking at that, I know fine well I'd much rather be watching Leeds than probably 90% of the teams in the Premier League this season. Yeah. Arsenal included, because I think Arsenal have been shocking at times and really sort of, I think they've got another massive summer ahead of them, and depending on where their owner decides where his loyalties lie, if he doesn't come up with the goods to strengthen that team, Arteta's basically going to be doing a job with his hands tied behind his back.
Yeah.
They've got a long. We were talking before about Tottenham having to rebuild and do things. I don't think Tottenham have to do anywhere near the kind of work that Arsenal do. Arsenal are in a mess. Yeah. They've got this team where they can, if they play the lesser teams, they look amazing. But when they start playing anyone towards the middle of the table and above,
they
just don't look anywhere. In fact, if they play anyone towards the top, they look like they shouldn't be in the league in some of the games that they play in. So for me, they've got a long way to go. Long way to go. Arteta's got a massive job. So they can't even look at managers at the minute, Nick, that you'd be looking at, Tottenham would be looking at, because I don't think a manager of that calibre would touch Arsenal right now. They're going to have to stick with Arteta and see where he gets them. They've fallen that far for me. They've just fallen massively far from where they were, 5-10 years ago. Massively gone downhill. They were screaming, the Arsenal fans, to get Wenger out. Ever since you got Wenger out, you've done nothing but plummet. In fact, I don't think I've seen a plummet as that big since summer plummeting. Well,
I knew that had to come into it. I knew you were going to go there with
that. It's ridiculous where they've gone to. They're just, for a club the size of Arsenal, it's to go that far down. It's ridiculous. It's poor management, and that's. I know Nick will be happy with that. You'd be happy with that one, but it is. It's like Liverpool were there a few years ago, where Arsenal are right now, and trust me, it's dark. It's a dark place, especially when you're a fan and you grew up watching your team win trophies and stuff like that, which a lot of Arsenal fans will have done. To see your team at that place, it's a dark place. But I'll be honest with you, I've said it before, it makes for great YouTube watching on Arsenal fan TV.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, Arsenal done well today. They got rid of Fat Sam. He's gone. I'm glad he's experienced it. A relegation. I've never liked him ever since him and Fergie teamed up on Rafa Benitez all them years ago. If you remember that, when he was at Bolton.
Yeah.
Then he went to Everton, didn't he?
I didn't. Those that time at Everton is like erased from my mind.
Right, it's like a black hole in your mind.
It was just such a poor. It was such a dreadful time to be an Everton fan, and again, that shows you though just what you go through. As a football fan, you go through these dark days and you go through these times where there is no hope or appearing to be no hope.
It's horrible. Horrible.
And I must admit, if you're a West Brom fan, it must be a horrible day. Hey, look at that, fantastic.
How you doing? Come on, guys, who do you support? What's your team? Let us know.
Yeah.
So that was. So the Arsenal being where they are, that's just where they are, and that's where they deserve to be, because the decisions they made off the pitch, and the fans screaming to get rid of a manager that was actually keeping them up there. When
he'd been there too long though, and I think that's the root of the problem. It's one of them ones where until you actually, I'm waiting for Gaz's response in the chat now. He's a right. It depends what kind of red he is, isn't he? Yeah, he's a red devil. I knew that was coming.
You'd be happy today, then, Gaz. Is
there any way to block someone?
If anyone hasn't checked out Kershaw's Adventures actually on YouTube, I think it was 800. There were 800 subs. It was on Twitter earlier on, so a massive well done to you guys, because I know they've been producing some amazing content the past couple of weeks, so it's been lovely to see they've sort of taken the ease in a lockdown and made the most of it. So yeah, lovely to see. Yeah, Charlie, we're trying to encourage people into the show. Encourage people into the show, Oh dear.
Well, just join us next week, guys. You know, even if you lose on Thursday, don't worry about it.
I thought, yeah, guys, you need to come back on next Sunday. Just to, yeah, that would be. I think this is going to be an interesting chat next Sunday, because that Liverpool Man United game, after all the shenanigans when the game was cancelled a couple of weeks ago.
In fact, guys, put in your comments what you thought of last week's protests, because I thought he was spot on in what he's done.
Yeah.
I thought it was the right thing to do. I know you're going to get your odd idiot and that, but that's going to happen everywhere.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the right thing to do
Yeah.
in terms of that with what's going on with the club and that. But let us know there, guys, what you thought about that, because we talked about it last week in depth, didn't we? About the protest that went on before the Liverpool United game. And with the ECL and stuff like that, and clubs just not listening to the fans, not being in touch with the fans, and just
I think as well, and probably United fans would probably think of me as wrong for saying this, but actually the way that this fixture has actually been rearranged into a very busy week of fixtures, I don't know, because actually I think it sends the right sort of message that the players are actually being penalised here, and the club's being penalised to an extent. Right? You need to have that, because otherwise we're just going to end up with unrest sort of ruling the whole thing. And actually, I feel that they've made a point of the Premier League by making it difficult for Manchester United by making them play so many games. And I think it's that pushing back that responsibility to you as a fan. And I can see that, and I can understand that. That's why I said I don't think many United fans will probably agree with it. And I'm pretty certain Solskjaer is probably sort of going home and sort of and sort of really sort of got in, slammed the door, and thought, thrown his toys out of his own pram. But something had to be done that didn't allow the mass protest route to actually be seen to be a way of getting your own way at a football club, because otherwise we could have it so many different Saturdays for years to come. And I think there's got to be a little bit of a sign to discourage it. So
what guys are saying here is behind the protest breaking in, like I say, guys, you're going to get the odd, but like Nick just put in the comments there, was it really a break-in? Was it not? We don't know. But
I'll still go down the line. I think United have done well in actually saying that it was a break-in, because they can't be seen to have actually allowed the fans in. I do have some footage from somebody who was there, and they walked in. I know that without even, and I'm not going to share it on here, but that was what was happening. Fair enough, the gates got locked afterwards, because obviously you could have ended up with thousands on that pitch. But hey, done. Protest, marked, noted. And then the Glazers come out with something cobbled up together.
It's the best way to do it. I was talking to a couple of Liverpool fans that I know through the week about it. And if you look at it as an isolated thing, it's not going to really affect the Glazers. It's going to be something that's a bit of an annoyance. I stop the game. But if you continue to do it, Liverpool's done this with Hicks and Gillette. Liverpool fans done it with Hicks and Gillette. They kept disrupting stuff. They kept hitting them in the pocket. And ultimately, it could have really gone wrong for Liverpool with what the Liverpool fans were doing then. But ultimately, we got rid of the owners and we got new ones in. And I like the new owners. They've made the mistakes. Don't get me wrong, they're not perfect. But that's what happens that's where the fans and the it comes from, is everyone sticks together and does it. I don't think anyone was against United fans with what they've done last week. You've had enough of the Glazers and what they've been doing to the club. Hiking ticket prices up, making it hard to get the game.
It's difficult, because what you'd really want to do is boycott the games, but you can't even go to them.
You can't.
So it's really difficult for them to get their message across, because no one's allowed in the ground.
Yeah.
But I mean, you noticed it a few years back with other clubs that are going through the same thing. When they were allowed in the ground to protest, or you'd get a mass exodus say, right, we're boycotting the games, we're not going. And then they'd still sell out games. And you think, well, what message are you sending?
Yeah.
If anything, you're making them more money by turning up. Just don't turn up.
Yeah.
But
and
yes, it's really
that's the annoying bit, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
You'll have your fan groups who will organise protests outside the ground before the game goes on, and you'll get disruption of maybe not getting them into the ground as quick, and so you got not coming in. And it's that sort of thing that affects them, because if people aren't getting into the ground, don't forget a small amount of revenue at the minute is from the game anyway, from gates, and it's from the big money is shirt sales, sponsors, stuff like that. If you're doing these protests all the time, constantly, and you have a big sponsor there, they're not going to want their name attached to that protest all the time.
Yeah.
They'll stop paying as much money to the club as they would be, as they'd like to, because they don't want to be associated with that. And that's where it hurts. It's not going into the ground that'll hurt. Not stop and go to the ground that'll hurt them, because, like I say, it's a small. The amount of money in football now is such a small amount of their revenue is the gate receipts, selling the food and whatnot. It's actually affecting their image. Is the best way to get the club to understand. Toe your line. This is about the fans. It's not about you. Well, you got your billions of pounds. You've done all that, but it's about the fans.
It's a big statement saying that the capacity and the people coming into the ground is a small amount when they're charging what they're charging for tickets.
Yeah.
For certain games.
I get that.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
That's concerning when you say it's only a small amount of revenue. When you've got an 80, let's take United's ground for example. What was that? 70,000 people? 65, 70,000 people?
I think it's about 79,000 or something at Old Trafford, isn't it? So
exactly. So if you're charging, you've got season ticket holders. And if it's a big end game like the Derby or Liverpool or Chelsea, what are they charging? 70 quid ticket each?
No idea. I haven't got a clue.
Don't know.
I mean, do the math. But when you say, it's only a small revenue for them, you're like, good God, what money are we talking about?
See you later, Charlie. Catch you next week, mate.
Cheers, Charlie.
Gaz has just put on there. Did you guys see the Trustpilot review scores for United shirt sponsors? No.
No, but I'll go and have a look after the show.
We'll do it. Yes. Yes, we'll do it.
I look forward.
You never know. Next season might be sponsored by the Kershaw's Adventures. Let's see what happens. Watch this space. Watch this space.
That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? I'm aware we're nearly up to the hour, and we haven't mentioned the fact that Everton won today. Liverpool won yesterday. Yeah, we've been we're really quiet on all this, Stephen, haven't we? You can tell that we've had nothing to whinge about this weekend. You know.
To be honest with you, I didn't want to upset Nick. He had a lot to get off his chest today, and we had to help him with that and do his therapy session.
Even Harrison's concerned. Look,
he's got that concern. He's got that concern look on his face. Yeah.
Liverpool won yesterday. They played well. Liverpool, I thought 2-0. Big game next Thursday against United away. Really nervous with that one. I don't see us winning it. I'll be honest with you. I'll be happy with the draw in that one. I always am anyway. Yeah. It's just one of them games where I have butterflies right from the start of the week, right up until the end. That one and Everton, they're the two games that give me the biggest butterflies. These horrible games to just be involved in as a Liverpool fan. But we did well yesterday. I thought Mane got a goal. He got a goal,
which he needs
for the first time since December. So really happy with that.
So now I read somewhere as well.
Took it well with his face.
He did, didn't he?
Was that not the first assist for a Mane goal for nearly a year? I'm trying to say, I can't remember. I read it somewhere today, and it was the fact that Salah never passes the ball to Mane, and that is possibly the crux of Liverpool's problems this season as well. You know, but he'd never passed the ball to him for him to score for nearly a year. It's just like,
it was a good ball, though. It was a great ball.
It was a great ball. It was, yeah.
Great ball. So give him that. He needs to do it more often, is what you're saying, John, isn't it? That's what you're saying.
He does, yeah.
More often.
And vice versa as well. Mane to Salah, they just don't seem to have
Mane does pass to him quite a bit. It's the way round. Salah's very greedy. He's just a greedy player. We haven't even done the Mickey or the Goofy Awards yet this week.
No, just before you do, I'm going to just say my team played really well today, and I wasn't even expecting it. which is saying something.
I thought it was a great result for Everton. That West
I
Ham
did.
doing really well.
I actually wondered the way Everton played, and I've said this a couple of times. You can generally tell in the first 15 minutes if Everton have turned up or not. Today, it actually looked as if Ancelotti had kicked the whole lot of them up the backside for a whole week's worth of training. They looked as sharp, and they chased down so many opportunities. It just looked totally different, and it was brilliant to watch. He also dropped Gomez, he dropped Holgate, and he basically made a statement. He didn't bring Iwobi on as well, which was always good. But he made a statement of players who've been underperforming last week and the week before. He's going to do something about it, and I think he's kicked people up the backside this week, and it's been a long time coming. But I wasn't expecting us to get anything from West Ham, and West Ham are in that same predicament as Leicester, where unless they can start picking out some results, they're going to find themselves missing out on something they've actually earned this season. And I would hate for that to happen, but see what happens. We've got Villa to play midweek. Villa were appalling against Man United today, and Watkins got sent off just before the end of the game, so he can't play against us. So Villa without Watkins, Villa without Watkins and Grealish, and you just know what's going to happen with Everton is they'll be going, brilliant, we just have to turn up, lads. And then suddenly, it will be 3-0 down by half time, and you just know, you can see it. So
that's Thursday as well, isn't it, John? You're playing.
It is, it is.
But I think that's another thing. You're saying about the Thursday game for United. I thought it was a bit naughty because they're playing Tuesday as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There needs to be some form of statement made that the Premier League do not want to be rearranging fixtures in the time scale that was left of this season. And I think that's Liverpool now have got more days rest than Man United. I think that's fair because it's Liverpool didn't have anything to do with the cancellation of the game, so there needs to be a little bit of leeway. And Liverpool are going to West Brom next Sunday, so
they're already relegated, so we should win that one. In fact, Sam always has a bloody way of getting one over us when he's fighting relegation. He done it at Bolton. So everywhere he's done, he's just been a pain in the backside for us. I'll be glad to see him in the league next season. Mind you, he's probably staying up at Tottenham.
No doubt.
The other one to remember, and this is just going to get forgotten about in the bigger scheme of things, because next weekend's fixtures start on the Friday. Well, they don't really end because we've got football every night this week, and then the next lot of Premier League fixtures start on Friday. But then on the Saturday, we've got a game at 12:30, 3 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, and sandwiched right in the middle of them is the FA Cup final.
What's it game?
I hate that why they've done that.
Yeah,
Cup final day should just be cup final day.
Yeah, it should be.
I just thought we'll start on that because it might be next week we can have a really proper moan about that.
Right,
but again, it's just an opportunity again to just sort of demean the cup competition in England, and it doesn't sit well with me because it'd be really, even as a kid, even if you didn't support either of the teams, and that was when I was a kid. The TV coverage wasn't like Sky it was just now, but it was the one day when you woke up on a Saturday morning and the TV was wall-to-wall cup final coverage from like 8:30. And
crap songs that they used to put out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Every
final swap shop.
Every piece of the newspaper that they could get, apart from the Sun.
Yeah.
Right? From that paper, you get them all in. You have all the pullouts, wouldn't you? Cup final, you'd read one the other. Yeah. But now it's just sandwiching between a load of other games. Well, great.
And that's going to be forgotten next weekend. And I think it's very wrong. And I also feel that it's not fair on Chelsea and Leicester fans because it is that one day. So thanks for watching us, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next Sunday, guys. Don't you worry, mate.
See you later.
So let's tell you what. Let's get to this stage. We need to make these awards this week because it's actually been a really difficult week because it's been a weekend where I don't feel it's any team totally sort of stood out more than others to some game. Everything's sort of been, it's been one of them nice relaxing weekends, where you watch football and in most games things went as, except if you're a Brighton fan.
Unless you're a Tottenham fan.
Let's say Brighton, if you get the chance to watch, is it Neil Maupay? After the final whistle today, I would love to know why he just completely lost the plot and got sent off after the final whistle for giving the referee what for. I'm looking forward to watching that again because I'd love to see. It was a complete. It was. In fact, we should get him as a guest because it was just a complete rant. He'd fit in well. He'd fit in well on a Sunday night.
We could have a rant off together. That'd be good.
Yeah, that would be good.
We're the kings of the ranters here, Nick. No one. We all do it. We're all at it every week. There's at least one of us are ranting. Me and John were just, egging you on this week, I think.
It's because our teams didn't lose. We were sorted. So come on, who's going to get the Mickey? Who's getting the Goofy?
Right, I'd say my Mickey would be Chelsea, purely that they beat league leaders. Really, I've made them look a little bit average, which would make an interesting Champions League final. Let's be fair.
That's who I've got as well, Nick. I've got Arsenal/Chelsea because I thought Arsenal finally got a win. Done well and knocked Fat Sam out. But no, I've got Chelsea there. I've got no problem with Chelsea being the Mickey this week because I think
I've got Chelsea as well because that second half performance yesterday,
brilliant.
Showed like I mentioned earlier in the show, it actually showed me a team that are already thinking about next season and how they can actually perform to beat the team that's at the top, and they achieved that big time. And I think City were actually a little bit in shock. There's a picture of Aguero sat on the bench after he got taken off, and he was stunned, and he just had this look on his face of total shock. And I'm thinking, they think Chelsea are onto something here, and I think the Champions League final is just going to be an absolutely amazing game to watch.
Brilliant.
So who's getting your Goofy?
Tottenham.
Of course. I had Tottenham/West Brom.
Can I throw another one into the mix simply because if you're a centre half to score and then for your team to be a goal up away from home, totally in control, you then stupidly get sent off for a second yellow for pulling someone back. Your team's still a goal up, and then at the end of the game, your team lose 2-1 away at Wolves when Wolves are not playing that great. Lewis Dunk needs some kind of award, and I'm pretty sure Graham Potter would probably put the award somewhere where the sun doesn't shine, because it cost Brighton 3 points, which would have made them safe. But in order to keep Nick sort of in that calm sort of, he needs that goofy feeling. He needs that goofy, that sort of, that time when you're in the parks and you really sort of, you've dashed around for far too much, and you just need a character meet and greet, and it's usually Goofy that just sort of does all that stupid stuff, and you suddenly find, I feel a bit normal now. I think you need that character meet and greet, Nick. I think that's what you need.
I know.
And I think it needs Goofy more than it needs Mickey at the minute. You just need cheering up.
Oh, go on. We're giving it to Tottenham.
I think we've
won something. Yeah.
Anyway, they'll be asking us to send it to put in that empty trophy room of theirs, won't they?
That's it.
I'm going to be very much looking to the open bus tour winning the Goofy Award this week. I'm going to book the day for work, probably stand in the rain, and look at Harry Kane holding aloft a Goofy head.
Brilliant.
Nick, you do realise that means you got the Goofy on the week that your beloved Chelsea got the Mickey.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Just keep that in mind. Right, anyway, I think that's it for the week, lads, isn't it? Right, thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for getting involved with this.
Brilliant. Yeah, and
Great show again. Great chat going on.
And also, if you missed out on the chat because you're watching the replay, we're on here every Sunday night at 10 o'clock. So come and join us for the last couple of weeks of the season in the chat live, if you can, no matter where you're watching from. But if you're watching on the replay, I know you miss out on that because it's tremendously frustrating when you're watching the replay. But we appreciate you watching us anyway.
And if you do like what you see, give it that big, massive thumbs up as well. Give us a
please do.
Get us a share.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Anyway, see you next week.
Cheers, everyone.